But let's now go to this week's auction clearance results, which look, they came off just slightly compared with the white-hot conditions we've been reporting in recent weeks. That said, it's still strong though. Across the country, there were almost 1,100 auctions with a clearance rate better than 83%. In Sydney, 303 properties went under the hammer. Up for auction, 89% of those were sold, so pretty strong. In Melbourne, there were just shy of 500 auctions. 80% there were sold, which is lower than what has been the clearance rate previously. In Brisbane, just 44 auctions, but here the clearance rate was 75%. In Adelaide, there were 61 auctions. The clearance rate there, strong, 87%. And in the ACT, there were 33 auctions, and just like recent weeks, every single one of them was sold. But with the auction market still so hot, we decided to send Ed Boyd out this week to see what it's really like for prospective buyers.
3,950,000. Well done. All silent.
The buyer happy.
Yeah, I think it's about right. It works out to be about 30 grand a metre, and 30 grand a metre with views like this, I think is good value in this area. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, lock-up garage. It's hard to find, and a quiet area with these views. I think it's well priced.
And the reason properties are flying off the auction floors is that the Reserve Bank has promised interest rates to remain at record lows for the next 3 years.
Higher interest rates decrease affordability, and lower interest rates, of course, improve affordability. But the only way we're going to get higher interest rates anytime soon, and we've got to remember it's 10 years since we had an increase in interest rates, is if we get a real outbreak in incomes growth.
And when places have views as good as this, they can sell for a mozza. This apartment with ocean views in Bondi was on the market for just 4 weeks.
You know, the market's still really strong, and I'm starting to feel like the unit market's coming up. Beginning of the year was just the housing market, but now I think the unit market's definitely catching up. We've had good numbers through the doors. A lot of people really loving this spot. This is really a bit of a treasure of Bondi.
Apartment sales in the state capital cities were booming several years ago, driven higher by frenzied investor activity. But after APRA cracked down on lending to investors in 2017 and 2018, and migration was culled due to COVID, investor loan activity has fallen to its lowest level on record.
It's been very difficult to get finance if you are a prospective investor. Fewer international investors, of course, looking at that new apartment product. So it's been, I guess, a perfect storm of negativity for investor activity. And as I said before, we now have investor activity in the market at its lowest point ever.
But REA Group data shows investor activity is beginning to creep up again.
We are starting to see investors come back into the market, and we are seeing first home buyers not as strong as they were. For example, exactly 1 year ago, investors accounted for only 11% of inquiry from realestate.com.au. That's now increased to 17%. In contrast, first home buyers hit a peak of 31% of our total inquiry last year. That's now come down to around 22%.
The number of first home buyers has quadrupled since 2016 and now account for about 20% of new loans written by banks. And investors are starting to favour homes over units.
There is that shift from what was the apartment market focus into now established properties in the particularly in the outer suburbs, and of course they offer the highest yields. And we're actually seeing increased demand for rental properties in those outer suburbs and upward pressure on rents.
The lack of international students has reduced apartment occupancy rates in CBDs, pushing down rents and forcing investors to find yields elsewhere.
Houses tend to have stronger capital growth than units, and with some of the banks forecasting really strong price growth over the coming year, a lot of investors are looking to get in on that capital growth.
According to the 2016 census, about 2/3 of Aussie households own their home, while the other third rent. 1 in 5 own 1 or more properties, and 1 in 20 own 4 or more. And many of those owners depend on interest rates staying low. But a warning sign is that banks are already complaining about rising funding costs. The Commonwealth Bank increased rates on 4-year fixed mortgages a month ago. Since then, 14 lenders have followed suit. The new owner of this three-bedder in Bondi plans to move in with his family.
Look over there. That's what interested me. I'm born and bred in Bondi, and you can't get over this view. Every time you come here, it's still breathtaking. So as soon as I saw it, I just wanted to have that in our family.